A little bit about fingerprints. So, fingerprinting has been used to help solve crime since the 19th century. That's the 1800s. Okay. And no two people have the same fingerprints, not even identical twins. Your fingerprints form in the womb, and they form based on a variety of factors that are not even going to be the same for twins. They're not determined by your DNA. They're determined by a whole bunch of different things that are happening inside the womb and the flow of liquids, and there's a lot that goes into it. But anyway, nobody's going to have the exact same fingerprints. And the ridges of fingerprints form patterns. And so we group those patterns into a few different families. We're going to get a chance to look at those on the next slide. So first of all, there are arches. And arches, they go up and then they come back down like little mountains. Loops start on one side of the finger and then loop back around to the same side. And whorls are circular or spirally looking patterns. We're looking at a few different types of those. Now, importantly, in addition to the overall main pattern, there are also a bunch of different little features that we call minutiae. So minutiae are like tiny little features that you see, and there's a whole bunch of information on minutiae in MyPLTW you can check out and see a bunch of different examples. But the important thing that you need to know about minutiae is that we want to match 12 to 15 individual minutiae, tiny little details, in order to establish that a fingerprint belongs to somebody. This is called a 12-point match. It's kind of like the bare minimum. We want to be able to identify 12 different minutiae that match in order to call it a real fingerprint match. So let's look at those patterns a little bit more. Here are some examples. Up here, this one, first one, top leftmost one, is a whorl. So you can see the whorl is a very circular pattern. Kind of looks like a hurricane viewed from above. If you think about like an eye of a hurricane right here, just like you might see like on a satellite weather image. Then you have an arch. And there are actually two different types of arches, so be aware that they're both types of arches. Arches, like it said on the previous slide, they start on one side, and a ridge will then go over, kind of go up and come back down, just like a hill or a mountain, right? Same thing with the tented arch, right? Start on one side, the ridge starts here, goes over, comes down. This has got a bit more of a point to it in the middle. That's why it's called a tented arch. Kind of looks like a tent. Then you have your loops. Your loops are different from your arches in that one ridge, right? If we're looking at one ridge of the finger, we'll start on one side, and then it'll actually come back around to the same side. So it comes up this way, comes back down. Left loop, same idea, starts here, comes back down the same side. Now, a tricky one is the double loop. The double loop is actually considered a type of whorl. It's a very circular sort of pattern. Not actually considered a loop, considered a type of whorl, but it can kind of look like a loop at first, so be aware of that. There's the double loop whorl. So this is the trickiest one. And so it's very circular looking, so it looks like a whorl initially, but if you actually look at it, there are kind of like two eyes of the storm. You got a loop here that's just wrapping around another loop. So here is the end of one loop, here is the end of the other loop on this image here. So during this activity, you're going to get to take your own fingerprint, identify your own pattern and some minutiae on your fingerprint, and then you're going to be matching up fingerprints from our various persons of interest with two fingerprints found at the scene. The first one, it was found on the handwritten note, so hopefully that can tell us who wrote that note and left it for Anna. And then the second one is on some of the lab equipment, some glassware that was left in the lab. So you get a chance to look at those, match those up, and you'll be completing a short Canvas quiz that's actually an assignment at the end of this that will cover your conclusions based on your ability to analyze fingerprints. Good luck, and let me know if you need any help.